Like, I'd never thought about it before. And then when I auditioned for Jamie's show, like 4 years later, they were like, it's going to be an urban sketch show. Like, that was what they were titling it then. And they said they're going to want one white guy and he's got to be an impress. It's like Jim, right?
Yeah.
And so I just started memorizing. I went to my cousin. I was like, who do I sound like? Who could I do? And I did like 10 impressions or something for that audition. And like it was, and I remember I just learned it as fast as I could.
So after the first show, you started piling them up, but you didn't do it before that show.
Not even piling it up. When I found out that they were auditioning this new Jamie Foxx thing.
Yeah, but that was 4 years after.
Yeah, they said it was going to be, and I didn't do it for the 4 years in between because there was no.
So you really weren't an impressionist. So that was what, 10, 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 2008.
So when you're about
when I first auditioned, and then Jamie's show was like 2009 or 10.
So
2005 and then 2010. Yeah.
So when you're about 30, you started nailing these down.
It was right there. It was 29, I think. Was like,
wow.
And I could do like a couple, like I said, because I enjoy voices. I love animation so much, and I always wanted to be a voice of a Disney movie or something, you know.
Yeah.
And but you really, and when you see the competition, because like for the Jamie thing, the last level was we went to Foxx on the lot. And the walls were so thin, it was like a military tent. Like you were hearing people crush and bomb.
Fuck.
Dude, I remember Eric Andre went in and he did very well. And then somebody went in after him and just sort of, ate shit. Like they came out of the room and I'm like, oh, you have some poop here from all the shit you just ate.
Did you look at them?
Oh, of course. We were all seated there.
Did you mind? Did you give them the fucking look like, yeah, you're fucked?
I was like, get the fuck out of here, loser. No.
Wow.
No. We were it was, the cool
when they
thing
eat
was,
shit in that environment.
I'm telling you, I swear to God, we all felt bad because we thought, in like the SNL or like with that Mad TV, they bring you in one by one, but it's like, you're not hearing people's bits. And then, this, you could hear people's bits. And they wanted you to hear people succeed or fail. You could tell they sat us right outside that door, and I swear to God, the door was made of like crepe paper.
That's the worst.
It was like the craziest thing. And I remember like looking at Kyle and some of the other guys, and I'm like, are we supposed to be this close? It was like on a safari where I'm like, I think the lions can see us.
It's fucking so fucking.
It was so weird.
It's just hard for anything, but yet alone that, where it like the whole show is about talent.
Yeah, but
like
also,
which is like a lot of this stuff isn't, but like the fact that it's like, so if you're doing a walk-in and the guy in there is doing a walk-in, if his walk-in is, you know what I mean? If someone has to follow your walk-in, that's gonna fuck their mind up.
But also, I think that it was one of these things where they wanted you to rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
you know? And so, but we were going to be an ensemble anyway, because that's what the show wound up being, but it was a very, because they used to keep you so separate. Like that audition had a bunch of crazy. I auditioned for that show like 4 or 5 times, and
The Jamie show.
yeah, in 1 year. I'm saying like it was really weird. They kept bringing people back. The one right before that, they brought you in and they were like, everybody's testing in this one room. This was insane. And you kind of go, we made it to the test. You know, we were over at this smaller studio, and they're like, yeah, Jamie's going to be here today. We hadn't met him yet. This is probably like the 3rd or 4th audition. And I was like, oh, that'll be awesome. And I remember there was a bunch of people in the room and everybody was like, we did it. We got to the test level. They're like, they just want to work with you on your stuff. And we're like, super cool, man. Like that feels very helpful, right? Turns out that was not the case. It was literally the audition was right then and there.
Oh.
They didn't let you know until after, when my agent called and they're like, well, you're testing. And I go, no, I already tested. They were like, I'm like, oh, no, I know, I just tested. They're like, no, that was another test. I go, wait a minute, what about those people? I started calling people. They're like, we got cut. They told everybody in the room.
Oh.
Like whoever the producer, I can't remember like who said it, but it was they're like, oh, everybody's good. You're all going to go to network. But they didn't. And then they flew in people from New York and Chicago. So I remember like half the people were out of state.
So you thought it was a work session, so maybe that made you chill, and you got through the work session not knowing that you were auditioning.
Well, I got through the work session for me, wow. I'm always like, in a weird, stupid way, I was like, there's no way. I swear. I was like, there's no way this is a work session. So I'm like, Jamie's not meeting us at a fucking work session.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything because what am I going to be, the guy who's like, I'm not trying to police the world. It's like, just do your thing, bro. And if you're good, you're good. And if you're not, you're not. But don't worry about anybody else.
Yes.
So I got in there and Jamie had a piece of paper with all my stuff written down. I don't know who gave it to him or whatever, because they asked us for like, who could you do like characters and impressions, and he was like, so I heard you could do you do a lot of people, is what he said. He was so nice, and I was just
and
like,
that's the pressure that right there.
oh, bro. So he goes, I heard you could do a lot of people. And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, who could you do? And I go, and I said, I'll do anybody you want. And I remember this. So he was like this, like, I mean, he's become a very close friend. And he's the chillest dude in the world. And so, you know, he's always he's like, he listens better than anybody. He's like always listening with everything. Like he always knows what's going on. He's so fucking smart. And I remember him just sort of like sitting there, and he was just like, so I heard you do a lot of people. Very friendly, very conversational, like making you feel at home right away, you know? And then I go, yeah, I could do anybody. And he went, and I remember him doing this. And I remember him going like, he was like, okay. And he was like, and I had memorized, I'd worked on all the white guys he had done movies with, because I heard that there was a rumor that maybe he was going to be in the sketch show. And so my pitch was going to be, we're going to make sequels to all of your movies that like would never exist, you know, if he died in them, or like, you know, Collateral 2 and like Tom Cruise comes back. And so he put down the piece of paper and he was like, well, how are you going to know the bits? He's like, didn't you write bits? And I was like, I'll just improv with you. And I remember that was probably the coolest. Like we had such a cool connection there, and I did a bunch of people, and
did he shout one out?
He shouted everybody out.
Who was the first one he shouted out?
Well, he liked that I did Nicolas Cage,
because
he looked at the list, I think right away, and he was like, well, who would I want to do this thing with? And I remember Nick was on there, and maybe James Gandolfini. He just started calling dudes out, and I just started like going with him. And I remember him because he's one of those guys who champions people, like you just, you know, were saying before.
Yeah.
So when he would clap and he always just goes, let's go. And he was just like super, you felt the vibe in the room. And we were like, it didn't feel like an audition. It just felt like this is maybe what a writer's room would be like, because the other producers are all over here. The room is full of people.
Because he's so rare air that if he sees somebody that can hang with him in that air.
Bro, he is one of the greatest impressionists that ever lived.
All time.
All time.
He could be the most talented. I think he's the most talented person in Hollywood.
I think so.
He is the most talented person in Hollywood.
When we were in that room, and then I came out thinking, well, that was kind of crazy the way that happened like that. So, because I didn't even know if they were supposed to work on what you were going to do for the test, but we didn't work on anything. We just sort of bullshitted, you know, like and told jokes and was having fun and like just, you know, trying to create together. And then when the test came, like there was like 5 or 6 of us from that room. And it was like, I think they cut 6 people. And then I said to him, like, what do they want me to do for the test? And he's like, just do. And so what he would do is he was off to the side, and you never get this, like the most, you know, the most fortunate thing in the world. He is sitting in the front row, smiling bigger and laughing harder than anyone in that room.
Yeah.
And nobody's trying to laugh or smile at you. And so I started with Rush Limbaugh about how
Wait, what?
I am Rush Limbaugh. Here's the thing, the deal. And I said, and it was a time where I was like, I said, the thing is, I want to buy the St. Louis Rams because it's the closest thing I'll ever get to purchasing black people. And I remember like he like got up and he was just like for all of us, not just me, but he was just like, let's win.
Yeah.
Like he was so. To have him there,
yes,
and to have him, and then when you were done, he would get up and clap, and he would be like, Jamie Kennedy, but it was so sincere and so enthusiastic, and so like I just left the room and it was just like, whatever happens, dude, like that happened.
Yeah, you just got blessed by the king, and it's just like. But that just shows you, you know, it's game recognized game, but it's also the most talented person in Hollywood, and he knows that he knows how he is, how talented he is. So he's only going to want a champion,
dude. And he does it. You know, he's done it for so many people because he's such a pay it forward kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you at that level,
yeah.
I mean, you see him like just out, like we were having dinner and This guy came up to him and he was like asking him, he's like, it's my wife's birthday. And, you know, Jamie went over there and like spent like 20 minutes with her. And like, dude, he's just like and you think like people should be like that. Like that's what people think, you know, but it's like I've only seen him, and I've known him a long time, be like the most generous guy in the room, the most fun. He takes care. He's just like as good of a dude as you hope he is.
Oh yeah.
And that's the only thing I can say about him.
Yeah.
And that's to get to experience that from day one, when it was in a competitive environment, when he didn't know me from shit, that was really special.
It's unbelievable, and it's as rare. It's super rare.
Well, I learned Bill Cosby. You asked my first impression ever, so I never saw a white guy do a Bill Cosby impression, and I read every article when I was growing up. Like Jamie Foxx is one of my favorite. Like growing up, I read anytime he did an interview, I saw it. If he gave one in GQ, I remember I read it, you know, front to back, immediately grabbed it. And I remember him saying he did Ronald Reagan because he never heard a black guy do an impression of Ronald Reagan. And that's one of the impressions he used to do on stage. And when we met, I told him, I go, I remember you said that in an interview. And I go, that's why when I was a little kid, one of the first impressions I ever did was Bill Cosby, because I had only seen black comedians do it. And I remember thinking, like, this would be cool. This like a little white guy just doing Bill Cosby. Because
It'd be incredible.
And so I ran around. I worked at my mother worked in radio ad sales in Clear Channel downtown Chicago, and to keep me busy, she would give me a box of Dunkin' donut holes.
Yeah.
And she would have me go all around the huge office and deliver the little donut holes as little. And I was like a 6-year-old kid doing Bill Cosby. And I just be like, the thing about there's so much jelly inside the donut because it's so yummy with the coffee. And I was just like, go from door to door as this little dude, like a hobbit.
Yeah. Fuck. Have you done Cosby on stage recently?
The last time I ever did him, I go, here's my impression of Bill Cosby, and I just went, no means yes, blah.
And do you think you could do it now and not get in trouble?
I mean, my thing is I try to do impressions that I think are either saying something, whether good or bad. Like, I'll take a shot at a joke no matter what. You know, even if I get booed.
It's the gym.
And, bro,